Good morning. My name is Jason Johnson. I'm with Focus Counseling and Therapy in Daphne, Alabama. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about trauma and the way that we may be unknowingly traumatizing ourselves. Okay, let's say 20 years ago, before the advent of the internet, you would usually turn on your TV news and hear or read about a terrible event, whether it is man-made or natural, and your brain would have a visceral reaction to it. You would think about it, you would ponder it, and then you would process it, and you would move on to whatever next is in your life and your family. Maybe, I don't know, watching a sitcom back then or going to work or whatever. But you moved on. You rarely dwelled on the event. Well, what's happened now with the advent of 24-hour news and constant information in our hands is that we learn and see of these traumatic events and we rewatch them over and over and over again. There was a study done in 2004, 2005, and 2015 that looked at this and to determine if it had any impact on individuals. And one of them actually came up with a term of vicarious trauma. And it referred to 9/11 in 2000, 2001, where people would sit there and they would watch the plane hit the towers and the towers crash and the people running and the constant analysis, and they were just glued to their television and they would watch it over and over and over again, and to the point to where they just there's a feeling of helplessness, and it will just bring up all of these feelings of depression, of anxiety, but they were just stuck to it. Their brain was constantly processing this thing over and over again, trying to make sense of it. Where really, yes, it was a horrible tragedy, but it's something that we should have experienced, seen, dealt with, processed, and moved on. And what's happening now is that, let's say there is a natural disaster or a shooting, the news is going to go over that story repeatedly over and over and over again. I mean, they will sometimes even start talking about the trajectory of a bullet if there's a shooting somewhere. And I mean, that means nothing to us unless you're a part of a forensic team that's trying to work in the investigation. But the studies have been done that have shown that when we watch a trauma, when we watch an event happen where people get hurt, where people suffer, and we continually watch it. And remember, especially the news outlets, they want you to watch this because they want you to keep watching the news so they can keep their commercials coming and the ad revenue coming in. But there are a lot of people I have worked with that feel a sense of trauma, a sense of anxiety, a sense of the loss of control in their life because all they do is watch the news and they think everything is terrible out there. It's one of the reasons why you go to neighborhoods now and you don't see kids on the streets anymore because everybody thinks that there's a white van on the corner waiting to kidnap their child. And it's just not the case. Actually, the reports of violence around the world outside of of particular areas is actually going down. The world is actually a safer place than it was 100 years ago, or even let's say 50 years ago. So, but if we watch the news, it's something that happens halfway across the world, and we take in that stimuli and we allow our brain to process it and reprocess it and reprocess it and reprocess it, we're going to start getting what these studies call vicarious traumatizations. It's going to start impacting us. It's going to impact the way we see the world. It's going to impact the way that we see ourselves in the world, and it's going to impact the way that we see that the world impacts us. And it can be extremely distorted, and it can be extremely distressing in someone's life. I talked to an individual who basically said that, well, I never want to have kids because there's corrupt politicians everywhere, there's wars that break out everywhere, and there's disease everywhere. Well, it's going to be that way, unfortunately. It's always going to be that way. But this person has watched so much media and has seen it so much and has taken it in so much that their reality has now been distorted, not based on what they've experienced in their actual life, not based on anything tangible that they can touch or anything that directly impacted them, but it was something that they usually saw on their media sites. So when something happens, when you read about a story that is tragic, yes, we're human, we're compassionate, we want to be compassionate. So we want to learn about it, read about it, find out what happened, but then move on and do not keep going back to this story. Because if you keep reliving trauma that's happening around the world, you yourself are going to have the possibility of developing symptoms of trauma, of depression, of anxiety over something that you have absolutely no control over. Truth is, you do have control. You have the control to see the event, process the event, think about the event, and then move forward in your life in whichever direction you are going. But if you ever find yourself where you do feel like you have a sense of anxiety, a sense of depression, or a sense of hopelessness, that's where a therapist can really help you realign everything in the way that you see yourself and you see the world and how the world affects you. So therapy can be great for assisting in that. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And you can look up these studies on Psychology Today. Just look under trauma and bad news, and you will find the links to various articles about it. But if you want to learn more, you can also go to my website at jjohnsoncounseling.com, or you can email me at jjohnson@jjohnsoncounseling.com. And remember, don't over-traumatize yourself if it's not necessary, because it's not. You got enough to worry about, and then to worry about something over and over again that happens on the other side of the planet. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great week.